What's up, everybody? It's Frederick Douglass Bussey back with another edition of the Breaking Orbit podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about why high performers are addicted to success. Are you a high performer? Are you addicted to success? How do you know? What is the impact of that? And what can you do to be able to unlock even another level of success and significance in your life without having to kill yourself or burn yourself out in the process? Are you in danger of that? We'll talk about it all today in this edition of Breaking Orbit, the podcast, which is sponsored by my book, available right now on Amazon. You can go there and check it out. I'll drop a link in there if you are interested in this, especially after we've had a conversation today about what it really means to be addicted to success. Breaking Orbit podcast starts right now. So I was looking at some statistics about high performers and high performance anxiety, and there's a concept out there called high functioning anxiety. And the thing that's interesting about high performance anxiety. Hi, Amy. Hello to everyone on Facebook. Hello to everyone on LinkedIn watching this live, watching this on YouTube as well. If you're listening to this podcast, then it's just me diving into this right now in this conversation that we're having about high functioning anxiety. And I think there's a couple of things we get to kind of lay out here, right? So if you were to ask a high performing individual, high achiever, I say we, but high performers don't believe in anxiety, right? You don't feel that you're feeling anxious. You would describe it maybe as something else. Oftentimes it looks like boredom. It looks like a desire to figure out the next thing. Sometimes it can manifest itself in the inability to be able to actually sit still and enjoy what's going on. You can't hear the sound. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Give me a 1 in the comments if you can hear the sound. I've got the audio up and everything's turned up to 11 over here. Because I can't really check it here. Yeah, so we're going 1, 2, 3 testing. I've got sound over here. Cool. All right. So, but when it comes to what that looks like, thanks guys for letting me know about the audio. What it looks like over here, or for a high performer, for instance, is just this drive, right, internally. And so what we do is we actually feed the addiction that high performers have to succeed because we applaud success, right? And so when you achieve things, there is a reward, there is acknowledgement for it. You get trophies, you get awards, you get recognition, you get validation, you get special treatment. And so we get the blue stars, the gold stars on your report card, on your homework. You get the ribbons at the fair. You get the trophies on the team and things of that nature. And so you are always looking outwardly, trying to figure out, what's the next measure of yourself. Here's the lie about being a high performer, right? And I talk about this some in the book, Breaking Orbit. And one of the things that we fundamentally believe overall is that doing equals being, right? And so if doing equals being, then the more you do, the more you are. The more valuable your accomplishments, the higher or the louder or the shinier your accomplishments, the higher, the louder, the brighter, the shinier you are. And when we equate that, and the only way that you can be seen is to achieve, then you feel invisible unless you are achieving. You feel invaluable unless you are achieving. And there are some people who, it's interesting. I was in a session with my coach, one of my coaches, and I was talking about high performers. And I mentioned the fact that, I don't really feel like a high performer. And okay, Amy. I said, I don't really feel like a high performer. And she said, I know, but you are. So a lot of the things that can plague high performers, I realize, are things that I really been experiencing. And even the fact that I didn't categorize myself in that way because of how I would look at it outwardly. A lot of times what we do is we don't look at it internally and realize what it's really doing to us. And so I want to go back to that concept of high functioning anxiety, right? And let me define the term anxiety. Where most high performers would not describe the feeling that is going on inside of them as being anxious. They may feel restless or bored. They may feel as though, well, I'm just trying to, I'm just figuring out the next thing. I'm just calibrating whatever. In reality, what happens is you're trying to figure that out because you are not at peace with just being. In fact, you are simply not at peace. And anxiety, a lot of times, the reason why high performers wouldn't describe it as anxiety is because anxiety is related to fear, right? And so it's another word that people use in place of fear, but there's a distinction that we have to make, right? So fear is this instinctive response to present real danger. So if it's real, if a bear is chasing you, if there's a snake in your house, if someone is holding a gun to your head, there's actual fear there. There's a reason to be afraid. And that's important to understand. You need to respond in an appropriate way. But anxiety is the mental manufacturing of something to be afraid of. And so, what we're telling ourselves, what our brain, our mind is telling us, is that there is something that is threatening you and you need to do something about it. And because it's internal and it's being generated internally, you can't really calibrate it. But what we do is we try to exert it externally in terms of our surroundings. And what do high performers do, right? Well, let me tell you what the anxiety is being generated by. More often than not, it's being generated by the fact that I haven't done enough. I am not yet valuable enough to be loved, to be seen, to be heard. I need to keep moving forward, pushing higher, achieving more, doing in order to be valid. And because of that feeling that is internally, we call it drive, ambition, etc. But in reality, what it is, it's really a manufactured fear, a false belief. And so if you believe that you are not enough and that you need to do more, that you need to be more, then you will continue to chase that corner office. You will continue to, if you're building a business, look for the higher revenue goals. You'll work harder and longer hours. You will continue to push that envelope because doing those things sets you apart from other people. Like one of the characteristics that high performers struggle with is being set apart. And I look at that myself, right? I don't want to do what other people are doing. I don't want to do what other coaches are doing. I don't want my business to look what other people's looks like unless it's someone that I admire. And even then, I'm comparing myself to them. Does it measure up? Right. And so here's the beautiful part about giftedness and where it sets you free. Right. Now, giftedness is a concept. If this is the first time you're watching me, giftedness is the concept I talk about in the book, which is your, what other people might term your superpower, but it is your unique and special ability, your capacity to impact the world in a special, unique, and powerful way. And because it is unique to you and because it is innate to you, it's not something that you can do to achieve. It's not something that you can acquire. It is something that you can only have because of who you are. You don't have to get it to have it. You don't have to do it to be it. You are it. That's your real identity. And when you understand that and unpack that and unhinge your identity from the things you've done, the things you've accomplished, it changes so much, right? Because, and it may sound counterintuitive, right? But once you can release the need to achieve more. You can actually tap into your own unique superpower, your own unique gift in a way that allows you to accomplish more than you ever thought possible. Because very often, the things that we set our sights on are based in parameters or a story that someone else has given to us. And so we have leaned on other skill sets that lean into that story. I will be a Wall Street banker, or I will be an accountant, or a doctor, or engineer. And a lot of these pressures are exerted by people who love us very much, our parents, maybe our teachers, maybe people in our families, even our friends, right? And so that competitive nature that is stirred up inside of us actually can work against us, because here's what that anxiety does. When you are constantly pushing towards a goal where enough is never enough, where more is never enough, where there's, listen, there's only one number one. There can only be room at the top for one in our minds. And so if anyone else ever accomplishes, it makes us feel less than. If we're never not always in that act of doing, then we are never fully fulfilled, or we don't feel like we are valid enough. And that can rob you of the joy and the meaning and significance of life. It can also tear down the fabric of every relationship that is meaningful to you, with your children, with your spouse. You will exert undue pressure on your children to achieve, because now we start to look at them as extensions of ourselves. And if they're not getting the highest grades, if they're not accomplishing the most things, then we're looking at them as if we have not done enough. And we're again reflecting that back onto them. So we are causing anxiety in our children in other ways that we don't intend to, but it's happening and it's real. And now the relationships between yourself and your children are strained. The relationship between yourself and your spouse is strained, because they want you there to be present with them in the relationship, working and loving them. And you can't, because the business is always on fire, because you have to do more, because you have to double revenue from last year, because you have to hit 10 million by the time you're 40, because you have to hit 100 million by the time you're 45. Because if you don't do this exit that your friends or people in your peer group or in your mastermind have hit, then it means that you are nothing. That's the feeling that you have inside. And even though you may intellectually rationalize it and understand this is crazy, because you can't articulate it verbally, it actually becomes this echo chamber inside your head. And now what you're doing is you are stuck in this loop of achieving and chasing, and achieving and chasing, and achieving and chasing. And the achieving doesn't fulfill you, and the chasing only wears you down, even though it drives you. But the drive comes from the wrong place. And I love this term that this quote that Rich Litfin says, which is simply, you can never have enough of something that you never really needed, right? And so if you're always chasing something that doesn't fulfill you, having more of that thing will never be better for you. You can never have enough of something that you don't really need. And so more success won't make you more. More money won't make you more. More impact, more accolades, more trophies. There is no more that will ever be enough. There's no such thing as enough, if the enough is built on something that you don't really need. And so when you can learn to lean into your gift, to unpack and uncover what it is about you that's really special, your true identity, now you're able to find the alignment and the flow in your life that will send you on the trajectory of success that heretofore, before it cost you everything, and it was burning you out, and it was burning up everything around you. Everything in your atmosphere was being incinerated, because the things that are supposed to fulfill you don't. And internally, because you feel empty and you can never admit it, you have to keep doing these things to fill that space. But when you understand that you have a gift, And your gift is the thing that fulfills you because you are created with a purpose, and that purpose is what is your guiding light. It's your North Star, not some fruitless, endless pursuit of things that don't really matter. There's a number of different ways that this manifests. We won't get into all that today. There's a number of different ways you can see this being played out in your life. But here's the thing: if you have ever accomplished something and it felt meaningless once you got there, if you were ever chasing something for weeks, months, years, and you knocked it down, you got that thing done, you had that check mark off your list, and you stood there in that moment for a second and you couldn't stand still because it didn't feel the way that you thought it was going to feel. It didn't fill you with joy and happiness. Instead, it filled you with this cold emptiness, and this confusion was filling up in your head because you were wondering why you were not able to hit that next level. The reason being is because it wasn't enough, and it was never going to be enough. The only thing that will ever be enough is knowing that you're already enough, and that you bring your enoughness to the world instead of chasing it and trying to take it from the world to fill you up. So let me know what your thoughts are. What are you discovering in this conversation? Is this valuable for you? If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, what are you seeing? If you're watching on YouTube, please share, like, and subscribe. I'd love to see your comments below and let me know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. Are you a high performer? Can you identify with these feelings? Would you call it anxiety, or what would you call that drive, that ambition, that desire that's inside you? Where does that fire come? What lights that fire? And what dims the flame for you the closer you get to achieving the thing, or after you've achieved the thing that you were in desperate pursuit of? Hopefully this has been valuable for you. My name is Frederick Douglass Bussey. Ever forward.